So, did you see the printer?
No, I didn't until I
Oh,
saw your notes, and I was like, there was a printer. I did not.
so I geeked out hard for this because I again, I wasn't born until the 80s. I don't know this stuff, so I looked it up. The first thing this actually was for the viewers of Star Trek, this was very much look into the future, as Star Trek will be known for, because after all,
Oh yes.
these bad boys that you can't see.
Oh no, the background's cutting them out.
Yeah, you
Oh,
have to kind of Enterprise, but this probably looks familiar to some people, don't it? 1966. Well, technically, this episode too, it's a different looking communicator. It's a little bit bulkier, but it's the same flip up. Except I noticed they don't flip them. They actually, in the cage, they actually like open them up like this. By the time you get to the rest of the series, they're like,
I was really glad you sent this to me with the book, which I did briefly read through. If you haven't opened it yet, it comes with a nifty book. Um, and I'm really glad you did because yeah, getting to see the original one, it was like, oh yeah, you could really tell that this is something someone made in their garage with
oh
like,
yeah.
like they're like, oh, we need a communicator. What do we do? Just wrap some tape around it or something.
But
And I love that. I love that
who,
aesthetic.
who thought of flipping something open?
Right?
Like that's so
Right?
obvious to us now, but in the 60s,
No, it wouldn't
like
have been, no.
but I looked this up. The first inkjet printer wouldn't be invented until 1976. But the printer you see in the episode seems like it's more like a laser printer because of how quickly it
Yeah.
uh, spits out the paper. It's a primitive one, but it does look like a laser printer. Uh, they called the shot for sure because they had no way of knowing about cloud storage though, so they would have probably assumed when they were making this that they would still be printing out reports
Yeah.
and whatnot. Although the data pads would actually make their way into the series fairly early as the original series, because we later see, and that was probably a cost-cutting measure because they didn't want to have to
I'm
buy paper. They
sure.
wanted, isn't that's what's
I mean,
wild about Star Trek.
the one that got me, and I don't know if it seems simple, but video screens, like
Yeah,
just to
that's another
create,
one.
like they obviously didn't have video screens back then, and just the creative idea of like when you're writing it, you're like, oh, we need to see what's happening with these characters. How do we do this? They just look through a magic window, and it's just such a simple solution to a problem, and it looks, yeah, and it ends up seeing into the future. Yeah,
But what
brilliant.
happened though with so many things is kids watch Star Trek, then they go to college and they become engineers or tech guys, and they're like, I want to be able to talk to somebody on a video screen, and they figure out how to make it real. And somebody
That's a
said,
good point.
I want to flip up communicator. So some engineer at Motorola, I believe Motorola was the first company to have a flip phone. Some engineer at Motorola says, I want a Star Trek communicator, so I'm going to make one. And they did.
As a guy who grew up watching Inspector Gadget, anytime I stick into a corner and I talk into my watch, like I'm like or like I'm a Power Ranger, and I'm like,
You
beam
know
me
what you
up.
should
Yeah,
do if you can download a ringtone that just goes ding, 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 ding.
I've been in stores where guys have done that. It's
That's
great.
awesome. Um, but of course I had to dig deeper. This looks like it's based on a zero-graph printer, which the first one was invented in 1938. But it would pave the way for inkjet and later laser printers of the future. So they probably took the idea of a zero-graph printer and just upgraded it and made it faster, which ironically
Yeah.
would become the laser printer.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where it's just logically, yeah, you're taking a basic version of a thing and you're imagining what the advanced version is. Then when the advanced version comes along, it's gonna match it
What's
to a certain degree.
Yeah, what's really interesting though is when, because you'll notice too that the bridge of the Enterprise is carpeted. Um,
Oh, interesting.
it's yeah,
No, I didn't notice that, but yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, and it's funny though because when actual technology diverges, because like you see in the Kelvin timeline, everything looks like an iPad or an
Yeah,
Apple
everything's
store.
smooth and
Yeah, probably a better example though is Batman Beyond because at the time, it looked like optical media was going to stick around, but it was just going to get smaller. So
yeah,
everything in Batman Beyond is just little discs, like little CDs, but they were mini CDs. And actually, the GameCube was literally that, the GameCube
yeah.
game system. And I guess it was more that technology was more prolific in Japan and other parts of Asia. It didn't really catch on here, but that's because Flash media um, took over.
Yeah, they really, I mean, they really got down with UMDs, which we
Yeah,
just never
yeah,
did.
yeah. We did not.
Oh, the PSP is
I was
like,
gonna say
I
that's
think
the
they're
PSP. Yeah,
still, yeah, I don't know if they're still producing games, but it was like, well, after the Vita had stopped producing games and they were
yeah.
still making PSP games in Japan.